They say some memories stay with you forever, like scars you can't forget. That day, at my brother's engagement, I felt like I was the scar, something everyone wished would go away. The room was packed with guests, full of laughter, clinking glasses, and flashing cameras. But even with all the warmth and noise, I felt cold and distant, like I was underwater, watching everyone else live freely while I struggled to breathe. I kept fixing my navy blue dress, trying to look neat. It wasn't fancy, just long sleeves, a simple neckline. Safe, invisible, exactly how they preferred me. Mama, look. Anya, my 7-year-old daughter, tugged at my hand. The cake has real flowers. And the lights, they look like stars. I smiled, my heart full of love, but also fear. Fear that someday the world would dim her bright spirit like it had dimmed mine. "They're beautiful, sweetheart," I whispered, squeezing her hand. On stage, under twinkling lights and white roses, stood my brother Kian, glowing with happiness in his cream-colored outfit. Next to him, his fiancée Isla looked stunning, like a queen surveying her kingdom. But when Ella looked at me, her face tightened, like I was something unwanted in her perfect world. I saw her whisper something to my mother. I didn't hear it, but I didn't have to. I'd seen that look before. My mother nodded, her usual quiet way of agreeing to things that concerned me, but never included me. She walked over with purpose. Everyone made space for her. She didn't smile. She never did for me. "Zoya," she said gently, which somehow made it worse. "Please stay away from the stage. Isla doesn't want any bad luck near her today." I blinked. Bad luck. I repeated, thinking I must have misunderstood, but she didn't waver. "She's right," my mother added, like it was just a fact. "You always had unfortunate timing. Let's not ruin this." Her words hit me like ice. The beautiful room now felt like a trap. Around us, people kept chatting and laughing, but I could feel the looks. Some ignored it. Others watched. Either way, I felt the shame rise. I looked at Kian, hoping he'd step in. Our eyes met for a second. I saw guilt, but then he looked away. That hurt more than anything. I couldn't find the words. So I said nothing, just stepped back and held Anya's hand tighter. "Why can't we go up there, Mama?" she asked, not understanding the weight of everything. I knelt next to her and whispered, because sometimes people don't see what's truly special. She looked confused. She glanced at Isla, then at me, and I saw something shift in her eyes, like she understood more than she should. That's when I should have known she wouldn't stay quiet. I wasn't always the unlucky one. Once I was just Zoya, a happy little girl with big dreams and a loud laugh. My dad called me his little sunbeam because I woke up early, excited for the day. My mom used to smile at me with love in her eyes. Then everything changed when I was 8. A car crash, a rainy night. My dad never made it home. I remember my mom's scream, the neighbors outside, and me holding onto little Kian as our world collapsed. That's when I first heard someone call me bad luck. My aunt said it quietly at the funeral. My mom didn't argue. After that, everything changed. My mom grew distant, cold. She poured all her love into Kian, the child who survived. I became the girl they pitied, the one they avoided blaming but never fully embraced. I didn't blame Kian. He was kind when we were kids. But as we grew up, he became the golden boy. And I, his sister, faded into the background. I got married young, mostly to escape. My husband, Ahmed, was kind in the beginning. But after 2 miscarriages, he changed. After the 3rd, he left with just a text. "I can't do this anymore." That message shattered me. Then came Anya, my miracle. She wasn't supposed to happen, but she did. A strong, stubborn little girl who brought light back into my life. For a moment, I believed I wasn't broken. My mother's reaction when she first held her, "I hope she doesn't have your luck." I laughed. It hurt. Now, years later, here we were again, at my brother's engagement. I promised myself I'd behave, just smile, support, and stay quiet. But from the moment I walked in, I felt the stares, the fake smiles, the polite voices full of pity. Only Uncle Rayhan greeted me with real warmth. "Zoya, you look radiant," he said, giving me a hug. He always treated me like I mattered. Still, I kept to the sidelines. Anya was full of joy, spinning around in her dress, admiring everything. She was the only part of me untouched by pain. But I should have known it wouldn't last. Just an hour later, my mother and Isla told me, without kindness, that I wasn't welcome on stage, not even as Scamly. Something broke inside me, not loudly, just a quiet snap that kept aching. And something else was shifting too, not in me, but in Anya. What happened next would silence the entire room. The stage shimmered with lights and gold. Everything was perfect, even the rose petals on the floor. I stood at the back, pretending to admire the decorations, but my mind kept repeating my mother's words. Isla doesn't want bad luck near her. I stood still, arms crossed, trying to keep my emotions in check. Anya sat beside me, swinging her legs, unaware of how crushed I felt. Part of me wanted to leave, to run before the shame overwhelmed me. But I stayed for Kian. Even if he didn't stand up for me, I still wanted to see him happy. The host's voice echoed. We're moments away from the ring ceremony. Family, please come to the stage. People moved forward. I took a step, then stopped. Isla caught my eye, smirked, and whispered to Kian. He didn't look at me, just nodded. That smirk wasn't about the ceremony, it was her victory. She had won the silent battle for my brother. I remained rooted to the spot, feeling 8 years old again, hiding behind the sofa while adults decided my fate. Why aren't we going? Anya asked, standing and tugging at my sleeve. I crouched beside her, struggling to keep my voice steady. We'll watch from here, sweetheart. She frowned, confusion clouding her bright eyes. But everyone's going, even the cousins. I swallowed hard. Sometimes we don't get to go where others do, and that's okay. It wasn't okay, not even a little. The guests gathered closer, phones came out, flashes popped. My mother stood proudly by Isla's side, her spine straight as a ruler, not even glancing my way. Uncle Rehan lingered near the front row, looking back at me briefly, his eyes soft with something like apology, but he said nothing. Maybe he didn't know what to say. Or maybe, like everyone else, he thought silence was safer. I didn't cry, I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. But inside, I was unraveling. Why was I always the one they could ignore? Why did no one ever speak up for me? Why did Can look the other way like I was something shameful to be hidden? I was his sister. I had helped raise him when our father died. I stayed up with him through exam stress, heartbreaks, nightmares. And now I wasn't even good enough to stand beside him on what should have been the happiest day of his life. My fingers dug into my palms so tightly I left crescent-shaped marks. I told myself to just breathe, just wait it out, let it pass. This pain was familiar, an old friend I'd learned to live with. But Anya wasn't done. She climbed onto her chair, staring hard at the stage. Then she whispered, Mama, that lady is mean. I blinked, startled. Anya, don't say that. Her face scrunched thoughtfully. She said you bring bad luck, but you don't. And then, without warning, she hopped off the chair and started walking toward the front, her little blue dress swishing determinedly with each step. Anya, wait. I reached out, too slow. She was already halfway there, moving with purpose through the crowd. I had no idea what she was about to do, but in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A flicker of fear, and beneath it, a spark of hope. I stood frozen as the hem of Anya's dress disappeared between 2 rows of chairs. My heart plummeted. For a second, the air felt too thick to breathe. I broke from my daze and pushed through the crowd, whispering hurried apologies as I tried not to draw attention. But heads were already turning, eyes following my daughter's progress toward the stage. Anya reached the front. She wasn't rushing or hiding. She stood tall as a 7-year-old can, looking up at the people towering above her. Kian, Isla, my mother, all staring down as if she'd appeared from another dimension. I wanted to run, to scoop her up, to disappear before she said something that would make everything worse. But then she did something I never saw coming. She walked right up to the microphone. Anya, I hissed, too late, too far away. Illa's hand shot out as if to stop her, then hesitated. Kian looked confused. My mother's face fell, her mouth parting slightly in shock. Then it happened. Anya gripped the mic with both hands, looked up at the sea of faces staring down at her, and said in the clearest voice, Can I say something about the bride? The room went still, movie scene still. Every table, every mouthful, every phone mid-photo froze. Illa blinked, her expression faltering for the first time all evening. Maybe now's not. But Anya kept going, eyes locked ahead. My name is Anya. I'm 7, and I want to talk about what I heard Auntie Isla say. My legs went weak. I could barely stand. Please don't, baby, please. But she wasn't trembling. She wasn't nervous. She looked calm, serious, like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire short life. She said my mama brings bad luck. She continued, her voice unwavering. But that's not true. My mama is the best person I know. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. She takes care of me all by herself. She made me chicken soup when I was sick and read me stories when I had nightmares. She doesn't yell. She just hugs. She says love should be kind and quiet. Someone near me gasped. I don't know who. Enya looked straight at Isla now, her chin lifted slightly. And you were mean. You didn't say it nicely. You didn't even look sorry. Illa's expression cracked, eyebrows raised, mouth stiff with disbelief. I glanced at Kian. He wasn't blinking, just watching Anya as if seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. And you also said something else, Anya added, her voice dipping lower, almost conspiratorial. You said you didn't even like my Uncle Kian, that he was just a good match. A sharp inhale cut through the crowd like a knife. I saw someone lower their phone, eyes wide in shock. Isla's cheeks flushed crimson. She stepped forward quickly. That's enough, she hissed. She's just a child, she doesn't know. But no one moved. Not even the NC. And suddenly, all that noise I used to fear, the whispers, the judgment, the pity, vanished. The silence felt different now, charged, electric. Because Anya hadn't just offended me, she challenged them. This little girl with her ribboned braids and tiny voice had pulled the thread holding their perfect image together, and the fabric was starting to unravel. I still couldn't believe it. My heart pounded against my ribs, my hands trembling, but not from fear this time, from something else. Pride, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for existing. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew one thing for certain. The silence was about to shatter. It felt like the world had stopped spinning. Anya stepped away from the microphone and stood in the center of that glittering stage, this tiny defiant figure in a sea of stunned adults. Some sat frozen in their chairs, others shifted uncomfortably, averting their eyes as if witnessing something too intimate, too honest. No one spoke. The MC had lowered his microphone. The photographer, bless him, had stopped clicking. Even the chandelier light seemed dimmer, as if holding their breath along with everyone else. I remained rooted to the spot, my breath held tight in my chest. All I could do was watch the scene unfold like a dream or a nightmare. I couldn't quite wake from. Illa looked as if someone had slapped her, her painted lips parted in shock, eyes wide, face draining of color. She glanced at Kian, clearly expecting him to laugh it off, to take control of the situation, to dismiss Anya's words as childish imagination. But he didn't. He just stood there, shoulders rigid, mouth closed, a muscle working in his jaw. His gaze flicked from Anya to Isla, and then slowly, deliberately to me. And in that moment, something passed between us. Recognition, perhaps. He saw me, not as the burden, not as the shadow lurking in family photos, but as his sister, as Anya's mother, as someone who had been hurting silently for years. And maybe, just maybe, he realized how much it had cost me not to crumble every time they blamed me for things I never caused. My mother stood a few feet away, arms crossed tightly over her silk blouse, face carefully blank. But her eyes betrayed her. That tightness around the edges, that telltale twitch in her brow. She wasn't in control anymore. The narrative she'd so carefully constructed over 2 decades was crumbling under the weight of a child's honesty. Uncle Rehan had been watching from the front row. He did something then that I didn't expect. He clapped. Just once, but it echoed in the hushed room like a thunderclap. Then he stepped forward, walked toward the stage, and put his hand gently on Anya's shoulder. He bent down and whispered something I couldn't hear. Anya nodded and smiled faintly, her tiny hand slipping into his large one. Then he turned to face Isla. I think the girl said what many of us were too polite to. He said quietly but clearly, his voice carrying across the silent room. Maybe it's time we stopped pretending kindness is optional. His words landed like stones in water, ripples spreading outward. Isla looked mortified, her jaw clenched tight. This is ridiculous, she snapped. She's a child. Children exaggerate. But Uncle Rehan didn't back down. Children speak truths adults are too afraid to face. Kian exhaled, long, slow, like he'd been holding his breath for years. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, barely audible. Did you really say that? About Zoya? Illa stiffened. It was a private conversation. You said it. His voice cracked, just barely. She didn't answer. He shook his head slowly, realization dawning on his face. I can't, he said, more to himself than anyone else. I can't do this, Isla, not like this. My mother gasped, stepping forward. Kian, don't be impulsive. He looked at her, and his expression, God, I'll never forget it. Years of compliance and quiet agreement melted away, replaced by something harder, clearer. I've been impulsive my whole life, he said, by staying quiet when I should have defended her. My knees gave slightly. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. He turned to me then, eyes finding mine across the room. Zoya, I'm sorry. Just 2 words. Simple. Inadequate. But after a lifetime of silence, they thundered in my chest like a storm breaking. Ella stepped back, her face hardening into something cold and brittle. You're making a mistake. Kian shook his head. No, I think I've been making them for years. He took off the engagement ring from his own finger, the one he was supposed to present to her in the ceremony, and gently set it on the stage beside Isla. The small click as it touched the polished wood seemed to echo in the stunned silence. Then he walked over to me. He didn't say anything else, just pulled me into a hug so tight it felt like he was trying to compress all our lost years into one embrace. When he let go, he crouched down and pulled Anya into his arms too. I'm proud of you, he whispered to her. She grinned that gap-toothed smile, lighting up the room like sunrise after the longest night. And just like that, the silence shattered. But this time, it wasn't cruel. It was freeing. The next morning, I woke to a text from Kian. I hope you know how proud I am of you. Of Anya. I'm sorry it took me this long. I read it twice, then once more for good measure. My chest felt tight, but not in the painful way I was accustomed to. This was different. That strange, quiet way healing begins, like a wound realizing it's finally safe enough to start closing. It wasn't just about the apology. It was about being seen. Really seen, for the first time in years. I wasn't invisible to my own family anymore. I wasn't just the backdrop to someone else's celebration. Later that week, Kian came to visit. Just him, no Isla, no entourage. He brought pastries from my favorite bakery, a small gesture that spoke volumes. We sat in the living room, Anya playing with her dolls on the carpet while we talked about everything and nothing. I should have stood up for you a long time ago, he said, staring into his coffee cup. I didn't realize how deep it went until Anya said it out loud. How much we were all hurting you. I gave him a sad smile. She has more courage at 7 than I had at 27. He shook his head. She has your courage. She just didn't learn how to hide it yet. That hit something deep inside me, some buried truth I hadn't been ready to face. I didn't cry, though I came close. Instead, I watched my daughter, so bright, so fearless, so full of light, and realized something I hadn't dared to believe before. Maybe I wasn't cursed. Maybe I was just different, and different scared people. A few days later, Uncle Rehan stopped by. He brought a potted jasmine plant, white blooms just beginning to open. Something that grows quiet but strong, he said, placing it in my hands. Just like you. Even my mother. Well, she hasn't said much, but she called. That alone was miraculous. She didn't apologize, not directly, but she asked if I was doing okay, if Anya needed anything. It wasn't much, but it was something. And in our family, something was progress. Anya, of course, doesn't fully grasp what she did. She just wanted to tell the truth, to stand up for her mother, to right something she instinctively knew was wrong. Mama, she asked one night while brushing her teeth, foam circling her mouth like a tiny Santa beard, are you proud of me? I knelt beside her, looked into those wide brown eyes that saw the world so clearly, and whispered more than you'll ever know. She grinned, then added with perfect 7-year-old logic, so I'm good luck. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks, maybe months. The kind that bubbles up from your chest and makes your eyes crinkle at the corners. You, I said, pulling her into a hug, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and toothpaste, are the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. And it's true, because here's what I've learned. Sometimes the people who carry the most pain also carry the deepest love. We move through life quietly, afraid to take up space, to disrupt, to be too much. But we are not too much. We are exactly enough for the people willing to see us fully. And it taught me that it's okay to speak up, that defending yourself isn't disrespectful, that love, real love, shows up, even if it takes a little longer than you hoped. So no, I'm not unlucky. I am unbreakable. And if being unbreakable makes people uncomfortable, if it makes them whisper or stare or look the other way, then let them. Because from now on, I will not shrink myself to fit into someone else's idea of acceptable. And thanks to one brave little girl, I will never again believe that love has to come with silence. It turns out I was never the one bringing bad luck. I was the one breaking the cycle. And that's the luckiest thing of all.